Hi, it's Dr. Casoni. I am completely revolutionizing herbal medicine, the way it's taught, the way it's understood, and the way it's prescribed. Many of you are unaware that herbal medicine is a genuine medical specialty with academic training and board certification requirements, resulting in a primary care status. Most people think of herbal medicine and have images of hippies, friends with crystals, or folk remedies that are ultimately unreliable. However, traditional medicine came long before modern conventional care. There is a rich history of knowledge based on clinical observation and successful treatment outcomes. I hold 2 master's degrees and 2 doctoral degrees. This is an extensive amount of education and comes with years of experience as well as the highest level of commitment. In the general public, it is rare to find holistic doctors that took more than a weekend course, but I'm involved with a large professional community where it is the standard. When I give professional lectures to the university alumni, I am surrounded by colleagues with double doctorates. Many of them are medical doctors with additional research doctorates. I am telling you this because this field has been deliberately hidden. Despite the history of success and safety compared to the high cost and high side effects of most modern day drugs, herbal medicine is rarely, if ever, discussed in the average doctor's office. Our vision is excellence in patient care globally while empowering long-term commitment to health. We are building a community of inspired families through effective treatments and education. Come in as a patient and stay to learn. We have a unique practice when it comes to herbal medicine and clinical nutrition. We have a large pharmacy, probably the largest in our area by far, with hundreds of pharmaceutical grade plant medicines that come from a lab. And that lab checks for active ingredients, contaminants. They're literally pharmaceutical grade. So they're reliable, which means that if we're prescribing for a patient and we're not getting the results that we want, we have to rethink the case based on what we're seeing and our understanding of the case. We never consider that it could be a faulty product because we know that what we're getting is always consistent and at a consistent 5-to-1 ratio of extraction. So from there are many hundreds of single plant medicines. We make formulas. The formulas are customized per person so that we can truly give customized, individualized care, which is exactly what you need to make herbal medicine effective. Many people talk about herbal medicine as if they are simply going to find the natural thing for their symptom. They have a chronic headache, they don't want to take a medication, so now they want the natural thing for their headache. But that doesn't cover it. That's not this medicine. This medicine is founded on the understanding of the body, first and foremost. That's the form and function, anatomy and physiology, which then leads us to pathophysiology. How did we get the pathology? What went wrong in the body? So we don't want the natural thing for headache. We want to first figure out what system in the body is in trouble. In fact, our practice follows 3 simple concepts consistently. What system is in trouble? There's a million diseases, but there's only about 10 systems. So what system is it? Next, what's in the way of function? What's interrupting that system, which could even include another system, right? The body's complex. None of that's looked at in conventional care. Causation at all is not looked at. It's just number drug or symptom management. So what system is in trouble? What's in the way of function? And then finally, treatment strategies designed to improve the function of that system. The overall basic philosophy that runs the show is an understanding that the body was designed miraculously perfect. And our treatment goals are always aimed at getting back to that normal function, knowing that when the body's restored to normal function, that area that's in trouble, it will do the work for us. We're looking for that tipping point where the body says, thank you, I've got it. I'll take the rest from here. And then 5 or 10 other things improve on their own. In conventional care, they're never looking for that tipping point. It's almost like triage, as the doctors, because of the defensive nature and the high liability, it's not their fault. They're forced to do triage on patients, kind of just managing what they can assume is appropriate based on the lab. And outside of the lab, they can't really think for themselves or really do any kind of patient centered care. The majority of symptoms that I investigate based on a thorough intake won't even show up on a lab. Yet those are the most important features of a case that tell me where I'm at within the case and what's improving and what's not improving. So, this course within the Herb Academy, I want to roll out our functional formulas. The functional formulas is a powerful concept. It is a revolution in how to understand and teach and utilize plant medicines. Typically, in the academic settings that I've mentioned, you're going to spend years studying hundreds of single formulas and hundreds of single herbs that are in those formulas. This is a massive undertaking, and it's easy to get lost in it, especially over the course of years. You're studying each herb, which has primary functions, secondary functions, and tertiary functions, contraindications, and what they can be combined with or not combined with as far as other herbs and even drug interactions. That's all stuff that we're required to know academically and for the license. Then we study the formulas which put it together based on a diagnosis and a presentation. There are hundreds of formulas. It's easy to be overwhelmed. It's understandable that most of the people who complete the program, a lot of them end up just doing maybe acupuncture part of what they studied because herbal medicine is so daunting and it's so vast and it's so hard to approach. Even though they did learn it, the schools are effective. Well, herbal medicine is everything to me. And that's why I wrote the 800-page textbook. It was my commitment to go back, sort through my notes, pull out information I thought was valuable from multiple textbooks, and write my own version. But the purpose wasn't to sell a book. The purpose was my own project for me to commit to the deeper understanding. More so than that was actually the clinical experience, starting with those basic formulas that we know work, that have safety, that are gentle, and then expanding on them, asking where we could modify them, building connections to other colleagues doing the same thing, being deep into the conversation of those modifications. And then what happened is one day I started making my own functional formulas that I call them, my own basic building blocks to prescribing. And it's really quite unique. I haven't found anything else like it. And I've been implementing it into the practice for the last few years. Now, the training wheels were those classic formulas. Don't get me wrong, the classical formulas that are studied in East Asian medical context are fantastic. They're powerful, they're well orchestrated, very different than Western herbal medicine teachings, which I've studied also. Those typically have high amounts of single herbs. They're a little bit more dangerous. They're not well considered or balanced. They're not well orchestrated, and they should be taken for shorter periods of time. Well, instead, you have East Asian medicine, which they have studied it like no other part of the world. And they look at the nuances of the body. There's root cause focus combined with branch treatment, even within one formula. And really, truly, when you do a functional medicine correctly, you should see the diagnosis in the prescription. They should be the same thing. I get patients all the time who come from other holistic doctors who did a bunch of labs. They spend a few $1,000s and they end up on 12 supplements. We never give anybody that many things. That's ridiculous. I'm quite certain that if a doctor gives you 12 supplements to take, you're going to find overlapping ingredients and you're not going to be getting better. And even if you're getting somewhat better, you're not going to know what's working. You should be able to look at your supplements or your herbs and you should see a diagnosis. If you're taking an herbal formula and it's for improving, tonifying, supporting the normal function of your adrenal glands, the diagnosis was poor functioning adrenal glands. If you're taking something that's decongesting the liver, then the diagnosis was congested liver. Once again, we're going back to the organ systems involved. However, people are taking vitamin D because the number on the lab. They're taking omega-3s because everybody takes them and they sell. I have a 20 years of experience with clinical nutrition and we don't even carry omega-3s. We do carry D3 but that's only because some people request it. And probably we will never prescribe it. We never have. It's really there just because the trend, and these trends are pushed by supplement companies and then the lab tests, which are also a money making racket. A lot of you don't know, but doctors will mark up those tests sometimes up to 400%. If we run a lab or order a blood panel, any of those labs, we prefer to have it done by the medical doctor so that it's covered by insurance, as we're a cash practice. But typically, we don't order labs unless we're stumped. If you know what you're looking at and you've seen the presentation 1,000 times and you have clinical experience and you're using tools that are non-harmful, you don't need labs. So medical doctors order labs for drugs because the tools they're using are damaging and high liability. Functional doctors ordering labs, you have to wonder, why are they even doing it? It's a sales pitch. It becomes, look, here on paper. See, you're used to that. You've been indoctrinated that paper means medicine. It doesn't mean medicine. Paper doesn't mean medicine. You have to know the physiology, right? When I talk to doctors as patients, unfortunately, they live in a high stress environment and they're managing liability. They do amazing things. They save lives, surgeries. A lot of times drugs can save lives. However, they've forgotten physiology. If I'm pointing out form and function, oftentimes they don't remember that. And that's okay. That's not their specialty. It's my specialty. If I studied something and I don't use it, I don't remember it either. But I live in physiology. So nonetheless, you got these functional doctors who are prescribing a lot of tests, and then here's all these things, and now we have the MTHFR group. We have the everybody's got candida group, everybody's got mold, and I see these trends follow the lab company and nutrition sales pitch trends, and then you see it show up in the doctors because they don't know any better. They don't know their form and function, and what they give their patients is not based on I ask a patient, you have these 12 supplements, tell me what organs you're working on. And there's no functional diagnosis. So the Herb Academy is all about teaching that functional understanding. We're going to have the conversation of physiology. The functional formulas, which I'm rolling out today, those formulas are already named based off of these organ systems. That's the beauty of it. As I start writing formulas, we're going to switch to, on our custom formula bottles, instead of your name as a patient, it's going to have your prescription. It's going to have what are the building blocks that are actually in that prescription. So we've named our functional formulas, which have several herbs in them, off of the organ system for which they're treating. It's that simple. And then I'm basically eventually going to teach the signs and symptoms that start to tell you and educate you as to what organ systems those represent. Many of you know, for example, waking up at 2, 3 in the morning, we call that the liver hour, doesn't mean that it's 100% a liver problem. And remember, these issues are functional, not necessarily a full pathology. It may not show up on a lab, so we call it functional or subclinical, but it may be related to the chief complaint. So it's like we're building a case. We've got now 5 symptoms that are related to the liver. So that starts to look like, okay, here's our starting point. We're going to make a formula, and at least part of it has to be committed to that liver. So the nomenclature of the functional formulas is based on the systems. So anybody can learn to read the formulas because A is, for example, going to stand for adrenal. L is, for example, going to stand for liver. And it's going to be that simple. We combine the letter for the system that is being treated, and then right after the letter is going to be a number, 1 through 9. Those numbers, and I want to keep this simple, describe the function. For example, I mentioned tonifying the adrenal glands. Well, that number is designated as 1. So the formula component within your prescribed formula, if you see 10 grams, 10A1, that means that you have 10 grams of your formula. It's adrenal and it's tonifying your adrenals. I'm going to have all this written down on our website so that for those of you who want to learn this, you can access it, you can pursue it, you can learn it, but there's not that many of these. That's the beauty of this, is that there's a million diseases, there's only about 10 systems. And so the functional formulas, which have been now perfected over a few years with fantastic outcomes that were originally based on classic formulas, are really going to be much easier to learn because the learning of it involves the description of the organ and the signs and symptoms. So number 2, for example, is draining or detoxifying. So if I had a formula, if you had a formula that said 10A1, well, we know what that is. And then if it said 10L2, liver detoxifying, you have 10 grams of detoxifying your liver. You start to see in the prescription the functional diagnosis. So there is more to come. I plan to teach this top to bottom. My goal is to have it sink in. This is the intro video on this topic, but the more we discuss this in our group, on the live video meetups, if you attend those, the more you will start to have a sense of empowerment where you're able to understand what symptoms would be related to the adrenal glands, what symptoms would be related to the gastrointestinal tract, the immune system, the hormone system, and et cetera, until you understand how you could read the formulas we give you and even start to establish your own home cabinet of some of these core components that you can improve and make on your own for the sake of your own care and your family, with us doctors guiding you along the way. Doctor, one of the meanings for the word doctor is teacher, and that's what we're holding true to. So I hope to see you in the rest of the program, on the online courses and in the meetups and in the groups, and good stuff. I'm very excited about everything that's rolling out.